These kids were arrested for crimes both big and small. Welcome back, Charlie here. From kids arrested at school to kids sentenced to life in prison for shocking crimes. First, we have to look at this 9-year-old boy who was arrested at school. This is 4th grader Devin Shepard. This kid got into a fight with a classmate during recess, and when a teacher intervened, she was hurt. Devin's father was called into the school, but according to the teachers, that wasn't enough. Despite Devin's dad being there, they also called the police to arrest Devin. Devin was crying as he was led away by cops, saying, "Bye dad, love you." Devin's father was shaking from anger while filming what happened. To make matters worse, Devin actually has autism, and the scuffle only broke out because he was being bullied by his classmate. But despite this, Devin was charged with 2 crimes: battery and criminal mischief. This took place at Needham Elementary School in Indiana, USA. Many were outraged and said the school and the cops went way too far. After all, Devin was only trying to stick up for himself after getting bullied, and for that, he was arrested. It's quite shocking police would arrest a 9-year-old boy while his dad's there. But do you think the school and the cops went too far on this one? Or do you think Devin's arrest was justified? Moving on, we have to look at this kid who had a shootout with cops. This kid may look like he's sitting in the principal's office at school, but he's actually sitting in a police station after committing various felonies. This is 12-year-old Travis O'Brien from Florida. During a 30-minute standoff, this kid opened fire on cops. Travis and his 14-year-old friend Nicole Jackson had ran away from a home for troubled youths. They then broke into someone's house and took various firearms, including a handgun, 2 shotguns, and an AK-47. Dozens of police cars showed up to the scene, and a 30-minute standoff commenced. This soon turned into a shootout with many shots being fired. Police helicopters had to get involved too. Thankfully, no one was hurt. After 30 minutes, Travis put his hands up and walked out of the house, surrendering to police before he was arrested. 12-year-old Travis was sentenced for his various crimes. Due to his young age, he got off lightly, but he was still sentenced to 9 years behind bars, meaning that he'll be released by his 21st birthday. It's crazy what these very young kids did. Thankfully, the cops nor the kids were harmed, but this situation could have easily gone the other way. Moving on, we have to look at these kids who were arrested for shoplifting. One day in Las Vegas, Officer Jason Valad is on patrol. That's when he gets a report of 2 kids shoplifting and causing damage. Officer Valad gets to the store to investigate, which is where he finds this kid named Dakota and his friend. Immediately, Officer Valad stops Dakota from stealing a Red Bull. As soon as Officer Valad begins talking to Dakota, he bursts into tears. Dakota admits to breaking a window of another store. Officer Valad also finds a lighter in Dakota's pocket that he'd stolen. Because of this, Dakota is handcuffed and made to wait inside the police car. To make matters worse for him, Dakota's friend got scared and told Officer Valad all about Dakota's crimes. Eventually, Dakota's mom comes to pick him up, and I can only imagine how furious she must have been. Dakota was only 11 years old at the time, but he'll now be 24, so hopefully Officer Valad scared him straight, and Dakota ended his albeit unsuccessful criminal career at a young age. Moving on, we have to look at this 10-year-old boy who got arrested. Meet 10-year-old Daniel Marquez from Florida, USA. In July of 2020, this kid was arrested and his mugshot was made public, something that normally does not happen to a 10-year-old. But why did this happen? According to cops, Daniel had been sending threatening messages. Daniel sent a Google image of some firearms to a friend and said he was going to take them to their school. It was meant to be a prank, but this backfired when Daniel's father's friend saw the texts. He immediately called 911, and within hours, Daniel was arrested. Even though Daniel did make a big mistake, many said the police went too far, including Daniel's father, Derek. Daniel was in custody for more than 11 days, and Derek had no way to see his own son. So so he decided to speak out. Derek said his son didn't understand what he was doing, but the local sheriff, Carmine Merceno, said he had no regrets over the arrest. Carmine said he arrested Daniel to send a clear message, even though Daniel is only 10 years old. Do you think police went too far here, or were they right to arrest Daniel for these messages? Next, we have to look at this 10-year-old boy who was arrested for a surprising reason. This boy is named Sean Hill from Georgia, USA. Sean kept on misbehaving at school and at home. So Sean's mother, Chiquita, came up with an idea. She called the police and asked them to arrest her son. And surprisingly, the police agreed. Chiquita said she had to do something to shock her son, and judging by the photos, shocked he was. Sean began crying after he was arrested. Chiquita said that Sean had been rude and disrespectful, and that he had not been doing his schoolwork. He'd also been talking back and not listening. So police arrested Sean and took him into their squad car. They also gave him a very serious talking to before letting him go back home. Chiquita did this to scare Sean straight and make him behave. But some believe this mother went way too far. Do you think this was a good idea or not? Next, I have to show you this teenager reacting to a life sentence. This is Mackenzie Sharilla from Ohio. One night, Mackenzie was driving her car at 100 miles per hour. That's when she crashed into a brick wall, ending the life of her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davian Flanagan. You may think this was merely an accident, but that's not what the prosecution said. In fact, they said Mackenzie did this on purpose, even doing a practice run of the route days before. Mackenzie also posted various TikTok videos after the crash. In 2023, Mackenzie was found guilty of murder and began crying in court. Mackenzie's mother also looked very sad and shocked. Mackenzie was given 2 life sentences, meaning that she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. Moving on, we have to look at this boy who took the life of his own father. In 2001, Derek and Alex King ended the life of their father, Terry. They did this using a metal baseball bat. Alex King was only 12 years old at the time. The boys then set their family's Florida home on fire to cover up what they'd done. When investigators realized something was wrong, the brothers came clean and admitted to ending their father's life. They did this because a man named Rick Chavez convinced them to. He was a neighbor of Alex and Derek. Despite their young ages, these kids were tried as adults. Derek was sentenced to 8 years in prison, while Alex was sentenced to 7 years. By 2009, they had both been released from prison. Rick Chavez, who convinced them to do the crime, was sentenced to 35 years. Alex King did go back to prison for some time, but has since been released. Ever since, the boys have lived quiet lives and prefer not to talk about what they did. Finally, we have to look at this 11-year-old girl who was arrested. Last month, this 11-year-old girl was arrested in Florida, USA. The reason why was because of a text she sent to police. She texted police saying that her friend had been kidnapped, but really no one had been kidnapped and the whole thing was a hoax. This led police on a wild goose chase. The girl was handcuffed and arrested by cops, and on body cam footage can be heard crying, saying that she'll never do this again. The girl didn't realize how serious what she was doing was. She was charged with making a false police report, which is actually a felony, but because she's only 11 years old, she was let off with a warning. Now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below which of these arrests was the most shocking. If you want to see my short videos, then check out my second channel. I've been Charlie, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.